Meeting a royal is a dream come true.
You want a kiss, do you?
But would you know how to introduce yourself to a member of one of the world's most prestigious institutions? When it comes to meeting royals, there's a little more to it than just being polite.
And as you come up from the curtsy, you shake hands.
Oh, sorry, afterwards. Oh, why is this so confusing?
In this episode of An Afternoon Tea With, we're sitting down with a British etiquette expert who's telling us all of the do's and don'ts when it comes to introducing yourself to a member of the royal family.
No selfies. No unsolicited hugs.
Okay, no selfies.
Unless initiated.
Just in case you get an invite to the palace.
Very nice to see you again.
Lovely to see you again. It's been 15 months.
But before we got going, I needed to know the very basics. How to say hello.
So, Sophie, how do you think you would curtsy?
Like this?
Very good. There was a bow involved in there as well, though, so it's one or the other. But yeah, the curtsy was fantastic. And then for men, so it's a bow from the neck.
Okay, so just this. So you don't do this when you curtsy? You just put your head?
You keep your head,
Okay.
your head and your torso upright like this.
And then you put one foot behind the other?
Yes.
Does it matter which foot you do?
No, just whichever feels comfortable. Usually the member of the royal family would reach out their hand, and as you come up from the curtsy, you shake hands.
Oh, sorry, afterwards. Oh, why is this so confusing? Okay, so you put your hand out, and then I curtsy, and then I come up.
Yeah.
After we decided we were well practiced in the art of curtsying, we sat down so I could ask Lucy why greeting a member of the royal family properly is so important.
Obviously, meeting a member of the royal family is quite an exciting but also potentially an intimidating opportunity, and the guidelines are there for the individual member of the public to give them some idea of what to expect. The royal family website will actually say these are by no means compulsory, mandatory instructions.
So if you get it wrong, it's not the end of the world?
You will not be hauled off to prison. No, there's no kind of legal enforcement. It's really just for that person's own kind of reassurance.
How about terms of address? What do we call different members of the royal family?
So for the Queen, you would address her as Your Majesty in the first instance, and then ma'am thereafter, to rhyme with jam. Not ma'am.
Not ma'am, okay.
Other members of the royal family are Your Royal Highness, and then again for a woman it would be ma'am, or for a man it would be sir.
Sometimes we manage to catch small snippets of conversation between members of the royal family and the public.
27. So this is something quite different.
But I want to know what a typical conversation with a member of the royal family might sound like.
The topics covered tend to be relatively neutral. We hear whether it's apocryphal or not, or whether it's true or not, that she likes to ask, how far have you come, where have you come from? That's the kind of tends to be an opening conversation starter. But it would depend on the nature of the event.
So how are you getting on?
Brilliant. If it wasn't for this man, I don't think I'd have the energy I've got.
We saw recently at the Bond premiere that there was a lot of discussion between the actors and the royal family.
And apparently Daniel Craig himself said that Kate looked amazing, which she did. But
who can blame him?
So can you kind of, as Daniel decided to do, create your own conversation with them, or would you tend to go along with whatever they decide to talk about?
I think there's nothing wrong with being a little bit bland and safe in this kind of situation. It probably depends on the reason for the event and why you're being introduced to the member of the royal family. If it were a charity event, you might want to say a little bit about what has been taking place within the charity.
I want to represent you, my book, and
That's really kind of you. Thank you very much indeed.
But generally speaking, be led by the other person and answer any questions that they ask.
And so I guess the same is true of making jokes, because obviously Prince Philip and the Queen actually made loads of jokes.
Are you well?
Thank you very much. I'm still alive.
Nice to see you again.
So you could kind of be tempted to speak to them as though you know them and that you might know what would make them laugh or something, but you'd say that would be a bit unsafe?
If you're confident in your humour being appropriate, then by all means go for it. But I think, better safe than sorry. I think it's better to be dull than potentially cause offence. So just play it on the safe side, generally speaking, unless you're sure that a humorous comment will be appreciated, or if they initiate that kind of banter, and then feel free to respond.
Yeah. And so do these rules around introductions and greetings exist within the royal family as well?
There is for want of a better word, a hierarchy, an order of precedence. The kind of top 3 levels is the Queen, and then her sons and daughters, and then her grandsons and granddaughters, and then the spouses of those individuals come secondary to those.
And how about touching the members of the royal family?
Touching, I would say, is probably to be discouraged, although we have noticed with younger generations of the royal family that there is a more open, more tactile approach to the public, especially younger children. We would see members of the royal family giving people hugs, so it's not to say it's completely verboten, but it's just take your lead from the other person.
Why is that? Why do you think that we have seen a relaxation?
Potentially with the development of social media, that we feel like we have much more access to the royals' everyday lives. And we feel like we know them quite well, and in turn, they have responded by becoming a little bit more open, more informal, and more approachable.
It does feel like we see a lot more of the royals and their personalities now as well. Like we do actually see them on camera speaking and talking to normal people.
Yeah, I mean that at the most basic level, that's part of it as well, is the amount of video footage we have now of them interacting with other people, going about their daily lives, and that somehow that humanises them. And then in turn, I think when the public have those interactions, there is a slight sort of more feeling of being comfortable with those people as well.
But not too comfortable.
No selfies. No unsolicited hugs.
Okay, no selfies.
Unless initiated.
Nice to see you in person.
So now we know how to introduce ourselves to members of the royal family. But what on earth do we wear to meet them? Find out in our next episode of An Afternoon Tea With.
There is always that really uncomfortable feeling when you're sat around a table and you're like, I have not got this right. I look so much more casual than all of you and I just want to go home. So that would be awful if that happened with the Queen there.
I'm sure she would not judge you, Sophie.